I've drawn quite a few cars, and I thought that why not for my next drawing, take it up a level and draw the LEGO Bugatti Chiron. So let's get straight to it. I took a photo, which I think is 3-point perspective, as it looks quite dramatic. I then used grids to transfer this photo to a sketch on my paper, which was somewhat difficult as I had to keep all the little holes in line with perspective. And if you're interested in how I got this sketch, I have a video dedicated to it. As always, I went in with a black alcohol marker over the entire piece, just indicating where all the darkest bits are. Then over again with fine liners to cement the sketch, ensuring I'm being as accurate as possible and only using them where they're needed. For instance, here, they are needed as it has a dark outline, but here, they are not, because it has a light outline. Just be aware that it's really hard to rectify any mistakes you make with the black ink. Now we have a pretty solid foundation for a marker base. So I got out all my blues and tested them on a scrap piece of paper, as the colours on the wrap often aren't what you get. I could then decide which colours go where and roughly jot in some splodges. Now the reason I do this can be seen between these two drawings. I only use pencils on the Bugatti, but both pencils and markers on the Mercedes. Now the colours on the Mercedes pop a lot more. But why? Well, the paper is obviously white, and the coloured pencils aren't completely opaque, meaning that white is still able to show through, tinting the colours, making them appear quite washed out. This is where markers come in, as they're able to completely cover the white in pigment, meaning those colours on top now show the colour that's underneath, opposed to the white of the paper. If you want more info on this, I have a separate video dedicated to using markers for realism. I was now bored of markers, so I grabbed my pencils and got to work. Again, the colours on the pencil aren't necessarily what you'll get, but I just winged it on the actual drawing, seeing which colours work and which ones don't work. Just bear in mind that the colours will look different when put on top of different coloured markers. It was at this point I knew that this was going to take a while, as there were just so many different pieces to pick up upon, and each one needed to be at least semi-decent, otherwise it would ruin everything else. And it was this factor that really hurt my pencils, as they needed to be constantly sharpened in order to pick up on all the small details, as a sharp pencil gives you more control over where the pigment is actually going. So the general way in which I tackled this was layering. The first layer would be where I really focus on where all the little details need to go, and I often do this with a dark pencil. In the second, I'd figure out how to link all these bits together so they're in keeping with the reference image. And the next layers would be where I use a range of lighter colours to smooth out all the blending, making it look as car-like as possible. If you're enjoying this, don't forget to subscribe. You'll also notice me working from left to right, which is partly to avoid smudging. But I've also noticed recently that drawing in this way is a lot more effective. For instance, I don't end up missing bits, as I'm not jumping around everywhere, and I'm really just systematically working my way through, as you are less likely to miss things when working systematically. And it stops you getting overwhelmed, as you're breaking the image up into more digestible chunks, instead of looking at the whole complex subject. Now at this point, I was getting kind of bored. There is just so much blue and tiny things to pick up upon, especially these stupid grill pieces which were frazzling my brain, which is why I would occasionally take breaks, just to break up the repetitive task of moving a pencil around. Not only does this help stop you rushing through to finish it, but it also helps to come back with fresh eyes, and you may pick up on something you missed the first time around. Now my second favourite part of the drawing process is using a colourless blender to blend all the pencils together. And this is where all your hard work really comes together, as pretty much all the graininess is washed away and you're left with a smooth ink-like finish. This stage is seconded to the final one, adding the highlights with a white paint pen, which really helps vamp up that contrast and make it pop off the page. Just be careful not to go too crazy with this. And just going over some of these highlights with a light colour can really help blend them back into the image. So yeah, here you go. And if, like me, you really like this drawing, I have signed prints available down in the description. And for more drawings just like this, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And I'll see you next time with more creative content.